Hello everybody, it's Mel. Thank you so much for joining me today for July's TBR game. First of all, before I get into the meat of the video, I want to apologise for the current quality of the sound. I'm using the inbuilt microphone in the camera, which is absolutely fine, but I prefer a lapel mic because the sound is more regular, and when I look away and things like that, it's still picking it up, whereas if I have to kind of pretty much stare straight ahead. But my microphone, my lapel mic is pretty much dead, so I will need to fix that, get a new one, something. But in the meantime, this is what we're working with, so apologies for that. Anyway, today I'm going to be playing my TBR game, TBR Campaign. So as you may know, this year I have been playing my two different TBR games, TBR Campaign and Roll of Reads, alternating in different months. Last one I played was Roll of Reads. I actually played that for March and June because June is the amazing readathon, and I knew like the way that works is the prompts drop every few days, and I just knew that I wouldn't be able to do my TBR and do that. And although I don't have punishments for the TBR games at the moment, it still just felt like too much. So we didn't have a TBR. It should have been TBR Campaign in June, but we didn't have a TBR in June, so we're going to have a TBR Campaign in July. So I will put my announcement video for TBR Campaign, which goes through how everything works, what all the different icons mean, how the game plays, all that sort of thing. But just to let you briefly know, I will pop up on the screen the game board. And as you can see, it's a little path that goes through the mountains. My counter will travel around the path till the end. I roll a d20. If I roll a 20, then I can spin my punishment. No, I can spin my reward wheel, and I don't have to do whatever that prompt is that I land on when I move the 20 spaces. I can do whatever the reward is. And then if I roll a 1, then I have to spin the punishment wheel and do whatever that is as well, again ignoring the actual icon. If I land on the same icon twice in a row, it has to be in a row, then I have to go back 2 spaces, so it just prolongs the game. And yeah, that's pretty much how it all works. Fairly straightforward. So we're going to play that game today. I am filming in a slightly different place today because one of our cats, Peanut, she's okay, she's doing well, but she had cancer. She had half of her ear removed as a result of having melanoma, and because they don't have a lot of research about melanoma within cats, they aren't 100% sure how it metastasizes and potentially spreads. There is no sign of the cancer spreading to other parts of Peanut's body, so everything's fine, but just to be absolutely 100% sure, they are giving her chemo. Unfortunately, chemo is obviously a very strong drug. The toxicity of the drug comes out in her urine, pee and saliva, and the toxicity of the drug is potentially dangerous to pregnant women because it can cause you to potentially have a miscarriage. So that I don't get any of Peanut's toxicity on me mostly via her like cleaning herself as cats do, and then me patting her or sitting on me or whatever. So, and the toxicity only lasts a few days. So she's currently locked in the spare room, which is where my TBR shelf is. So when we are doing this game, we're going to be reliant on my owned TBR on Goodreads, and yeah, we'll just see how that all goes. Also, as you may know, coming up in July is the Australian Readathon. This is hosted by myself, as well as Ren from the Reading Ren, Steph from Novelty Corner, and Meredith from Bin Chicken Books. All of these people are wonderful, amazing booktubers, friends of mine, fantastic, awesome people that you should 100% go and subscribe to if you haven't already. I will link their channels in the description below. I will also link my announcement video with all the information that you will need if you wish to join the readathon. But basically the aim of the readathon is to read books by Australian authors. They don't have to be set in Australia, they just have to be written by an Australian author. So if your favourite genre is fantasy, you could read a book by Jessica Townsend, who wrote the Nevermore series. You could read a book by Garth Nix, who wrote the Sabriel series, the Keys to the Kingdom series, a bunch of different things. Or you could read Jay Kristoff, who wrote the Nevernight series and the Vampire series. There's a variety of different options to choose from in terms of reading Australian books. The only requirement to participate in the readathon is that you read at least one book by an Australian author throughout the month of July. We do have a bingo board, so you can read as many books as you would like to fit the bingo board, or you can choose a book or 2 or 3 or 10, whatever. Not 10 because there's only 9 prompts, but you can read as many books by Australian authors as you want. You can follow the bingo board. You can double up, triple up for those prompts if you want to do bingo board. There's all sorts of different ways. Like I said, all that information is in the announcement video. But we have the bingo board, and that's what I'm going to be doing. I am probably going to be doubling up on prompts. This month I've read a lot because it is the Amazing Readathon. I think in July I probably want to chill out a little bit more with my reading. So I probably want to double up. Also, I do have a couple of things I need to read as well for various different things. So I'm probably going to try, like I said, to double up or triple up. But anyway, this is the bingo board, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play my TBR game. I'm going to try and pick, for all of the different prompts that I land on, I'm going to try and pick a book by an Australian author to fit whatever that prompt is, and then I will use those books to make up my Australian Readathon TBR, which I will talk you through at the end. Hopefully I will be able to do that. I do need to read a few other things. Like I said, I need to read my In Real Life book club's book, which is The Pale Blue Eye by Lewis Bayard, I believe is how you say the author's name. And we are meeting up on the 13th of July, so I'll need to read that at some point in the first couple of weeks of July. I need to read Empire of Gold by S.A. Chakraborty, which is the third and final book in the trilogy of the Daevabad Trilogy, which I am doing as a read-along with some other amazing booktubers. So I'm one of the hosts for that, as well as Kim from Expedition Through Pages, Emily from Emily Beth Hall, and Manny from Reading with Manny. Again, they will all be linked down below, so you can go and subscribe to all of them, because again, they are amazing and I highly recommend. And then I'd like to try and get to whatever the book for Bethany from Beautifully Bookish Bethany, her Patreon book club, which I have fallen behind on, and I do not actually know what the book is for July. So I will need to find that out. Editing Mel will pop it up here so you can see what that will be, but I'd like to try and get to that as well. So those are all of my priority obligation reads that I need to get to in the month of July. And like I said, then I need to add on a bunch of different books by Australian authors and hopefully fit into those prompts for the bingo board. I'll also just add that I have also done a book recommendations video for the Australian Readathon, so if you are wanting to participate but you don't know what authors might be Australian, have a look at that and at that recommendations video. It's linked down below as well. So that's everything that I need to run through before we start the game. What I'm actually going to do this game is I have the board set up behind you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually swing the camera around. Hey girls, everybody's okay. Sorry, Shade is lying just on the bench next to me, and Pistachio just jumped up. Shade and Pistachio don't get along, and plus Shade was startled, so she hissed. Just kind of trying to keep an eye on this situation. I think we're all good. Anyway, so I'm going to be spinning the camera around, which means the camera angles will change quite a bit, so sorry about that. But the board's all set up, so let's go and do our first roll. Alright. 20-sided dice, roll number 1 is 2. So, 1, 2. And that is a dwarf. Okay, so as you just saw, we landed on a dwarf. All of the character squares are genre-based. So, for dwarf, let me just check all the info I have written down on my computer over here, is a classic or a non-fiction. So, I do have one non-fiction by an Australian author, which is Truganini. I cannot remember what the author's name is, but the image of the book will be up here. So it is an autobiography about a woman, an Indigenous woman called Truganini, who lived on Bruny Island, which is an island just off Tasmania. I mean, it's part of Tasmania. And yeah, it's about her life, and yeah, it's supposed to be really, really interesting. I don't know a huge amount about it other than what I've just said, but I've been meaning to read it for a while. I was thinking of potentially hoping to fit it into Readathon, so I think we're off to a great start. So my first book for the dwarf prompt is going to be a non-fiction, and that is Truganini. Alright, roll number 2. Alright, roll number 2, roll our d20. And that was a 9. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And is a dice square, which is a character class square. Okay, so we rolled a 9 and we landed on a character class square, which is using the dice icon. And what that means is I need to roll a d10 because I have 10 character classes, and whatever number I land on will correspond to a character class, and the prompt is quite specific to how that relates to the character class. So, got my d10. I need something to roll on. We're going to use the lid of a container that was just on the bench there. I don't have a dice rolling thing. I should probably get one, but anyway. Got the d10, let's roll, and it's a 10. Alright, so the prompt is wizard, and the prompt for wizard is set in our world but features magic or the paranormal. So the book that I'm going to choose for this one is The Invocations by Crystal Sutherland. I'm supposed to be reading that in June for Bethany's book club, but it is the 27th of June, and the next prompt that has dropped for the Amazing Readathon will not work, and I believe the discussion is this weekend anyway, so I'm not going to get to it in time, so I'm just going to put it off until July. It's a book I really want to read, but it's a book about witches, and it's definitely set in our world, and yeah, has witches and magic in it. I don't remember a huge amount about this one either. I just know that it sounded amazing. I read House of Hollow last year for the Australian Readathon because Crystal Sutherland is an Australian author, and I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm really excited to get to The Invocations, and yeah, that's the next book for my TBR. So let's go now and do roll number 3. Okay, roll number 3 is a 1, which means I go to there. Then I also have to do a punishment spin. So let's reposition the camera and then we'll see what happens. Alright, so we got a 1 and I landed on the book battle square, but I have to spin a punishment because I landed on a 1. So let me just screen record and then I'll bring up the punishment wheel. Double page count. I'm actually not sure what I meant by that, so I might actually just spin it again. Reread a book I disliked. Alright. Let me think about that. Reread a book I disliked. I think that I'm going to change that slightly because I don't tend to keep books that I don't like. I might have to go through some of these punishments and do some different punishments because I don't know what I meant by the first one I spun, and then this one's a bit like, I think it should be read a book from an author you didn't like. So reading a book from an author I didn't like, if I do that instead, then I'm actually going to choose a book by Anita Heiss. Anita Heiss is an Indigenous Australian author who I haven't enjoyed her books before, but I know that Meredith really, really enjoys her writing. So, and I'm pretty sure that this book, and I can't remember what it's called, but it'll be on screen. I'm pretty sure this is one of Meredith's favourites by Anita Heiss. It is a historical fiction. It is about the Second World War and Japanese people that were interned in camps in Australia. So it does sound quite interesting, and hopefully I get along with this one. So I'm going to add this to the TBR. Let's go and do roll number 4. Are we on? I think so. Roll number 4. Okay. Next roll. An 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I landed on Book Battle again. So the idea behind this, I got the idea from Gavin, from the TBR game that he used to play. The idea is that I pick a book that I want to read, a book that I don't particularly want to read, and then I roll a d20 twice, and then whichever book wins is the book that I will read. So obviously I'll do that, but the reason I'm hesitating is because I did land on this prompt just a minute ago, and technically I should now go back 2 spaces. But I didn't do the prompt because I got the punishment. So can I get away? No, I landed on it. It's not its fault that it was because of a 1. So I should go back 2 places. Anyway, I'm going to have a look and see what books I might potentially pick for this one, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so I have figured out the books that I'm going to do the battle with. Both of these books are books that I do want to read. However, only one of them is a book that I particularly want to read this month. So the books are The Bookbinder of Jericho by Pip Williams and Lake's Edge by Lyndall Clipstone. The one that I really want to get to really soon is The Bookbinder of Jericho. I do want to read Lake's Edge, like I said, but not as much, and potentially not this month. So, D20. The first roll will be for The Bookbinder of Jericho, and the second roll will be for Lake's Edge. Alright, an 8 for Bookbinder of Jericho. Doesn't look very promising. But you never know. And a 19 for Lake's Edge. Oh, that 19 was that one. It did roll 19, I promise. It's not going to show you. But yes, so I'm reading Lake's Edge for that prompt. And now I need to go back 2 spaces, which adds an extra roll because I have to do the next one. So let me spin you around and we can see what happens. Alright, so back 2 spaces takes me to a travel space. Alright, so we've got travel space. So that means I pick up my travel cards, I give them a shuffle. I'm not a very good shuffler, but I have shuffled these off camera as well, so they've been decently shuffled. I shuffle them all the time whenever I get the prompt anyway, so I'll pick, let's go this one here, BIPOC author. Okay, BIPOC author. I'm going to read After Story by Larissa Barrett. One of my projects for this year is to reread some books that I have said are favourites throughout the time I've been on BookTube, favourites of the year and that sort of thing, but I haven't necessarily reread them to check whether they're favourites. After Story is one of those books. I'm supposed to have read that in either May or June, but I didn't get to it. I haven't been doing that well on this particular project, so I'm just going to roll it over into July. So that's the book for this one. Larissa Barrett is an Indigenous Australian author, so she is a BIPOC author. This book is about a mother and daughter, and they've been quite estranged ever since the eldest daughter, so the eldest sister, went missing, and when they were quite young. And this daughter in the story wants to reconnect with her mother, and her big passion is English literature, and she wants to do an English literature tour of the UK. So she takes her mum along, and it's about them trying to reconnect. And I really enjoyed it, like I said, so I'm excited to reread it and see what I think of it a second time. But yeah, so let's go now, and I don't even know what roll I'm on, but let's go now and do the next roll. Alright, next roll is a 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another travelling card. Okay, so yes, I landed on another travelling card, but it resets. So I landed on the same prompt as for a second time in a row again, but the only reason I landed on travel previously was because I had to go back. So I don't have to do that again. Anyway, I do have to pick a card. Alright, we're going to choose from over here this time. This one. Set somewhere you've been. Alright, that works out well for Australian book, but let me think about what I have on my TBR. that I can use. Alright, so I have decided to go with The Deep by Kyle Perry. This is set on the Tasman Peninsula. I have definitely been to the Tasman Peninsula, so it definitely counts. That is in Tasmania, which is where I live. And my friend Michelle and I are actually going away for a little bit of a reading getaway in the first weekend. Is the first? Yes, the first weekend of July. We're going to be staying in a cozy little cabin, and we thought that it might be fun to read books, cozy mystery type books set in Tasmania. So that's a book I was already planning on reading for that, so it works out really, really well. So yeah, that's the book I'm going to read for this prompt. Alright, let's go now and roll again. We've still got a ways to go, so we need some bigger numbers now. Alright. An 18, that is much bigger. Alright. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 18. Okay, so 18 was a nice big roll, which gets us quite close to the end. However, as you just saw, I did land on another travelling card. This time it will count as having two things exactly the same. So I will go back 2 spaces. But let me do my travel card first. I might go this one. Random Spotify inspired. Oh my goodness. Okay, this is going to have to be just any old book, I think. It's not going to necessarily work for Australian. So the idea here is that I go to Spotify, I go to my liked songs, just randomize the selection. So it's a song called 1000 Sundowns by Emma Louise. Met a boy who made me cry. I said I appreciate his honesty. Then he cried. Okay, so I don't want to get a copyright strike, so I don't want to play too much. So it's sort of a sad, quiet, contemplative kind of song. So I think I need a sad, kind of quiet, contemplative book. Bear with. Alright, so I'm going to choose for this one of the host's favourites for the readathon, and that is Returning by Curly Saunders. And this is a poetry collection. Very out of my comfort zone. I'm not a huge poetry reader, but we'll see how we go. It says that it takes you on Curly's journey of rediscovering self, country and connection. Curly's experiences address large contemporary themes of decolonisation, self-determination, identity, First Nations matriarchy, queerness, justice, love, liberation and truth-telling. So yeah, I think it's going to fit really well with the prompt, and hopefully I get along with it. We'll see how we go. Now I have to go back 2 spaces. So let's go and do that. Alright, 2 spaces. 1, 2. And it is a dice, which means it is a character class. Alright, I landed on dice, which means character class. I have to roll the d10. So, got my rolling thing, got my d10. And it's a 9. Alright, so 9 is a sorcerer. And that means I need to read a book set in a magical / fantasy world. So I've decided to go with another host's favourite, and that is Deep is the Fen by Lily Wilkinson. This one is about Mary and Mary's best friend Teddy. Teddy is joining the Toadmen, a secret society who specialise in backward thinking and suspiciously supernatural traditions. Mary does not want him to do that. An ancient toad ritual is being held in the sinister Deeping Fen, and if Mary doesn't rescue Teddy before it's finished, she'll lose him forever. So it sounds like it could be really fun. It is one of Steph's favourites, so that's what we're going to go with. They're both Steph's favourites. It's both this one and the previous prompt. But yeah, so it sounds really good, and I'm looking forward. I did think I might try and pick this up this month, so I'm glad I fit it on the TBR. Alright, let's go, and hopefully this is our final roll. Hopefully we get a big enough roll that we can get to the end. So let's go and see. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we got a 4, which means we didn't make it to the end. This is the biggest TBR campaign I've played, I think. But yeah, anyway. Alright. Got the D10. A 9 again, I'm going to roll again. A 1. Alright. 1 is a barbarian, which means it needs to be predominantly set in a rural setting. I think for this one, I'm going to put our group book for the Australian Readathon, which is When Things Happen Together by Jordan Clayton Lewis. This is about a road trip around Australia, so I think that there'll be a lot of rural settings for that. So hopefully that will work, but that's the book I'm going to put in there. If it doesn't work, then I might have to find something else throughout the month, but it's definitely the group book, and it's definitely a book I'd like to get to, so hopefully that will work. All right, let's go and do what should be, unless we're very unlucky, a final roll. All right, hopefully final roll 13, so yes, end. All right, so we got 13, which means we got to end. So that is the final space that we landed on, and it just means it's a mood read, but I have to pick it now. So I'm going to choose the Bookbinder of Jericho because I do really, really want to read that book, and it just seems like a sensible option. So yes, that is the book I'm going to pick for this final roll. So that's my TBR. I have not been writing these down, which was probably incredibly stupid given that I don't have the books to hand. So, I'm not sure what to do there. I guess I will go back over the footage and write them all down. Ah! Oh well. I'm going to go now and try and figure out anyway what books I'm going to put to what prompts for the bingo board. So I'll be back in a minute. Hello, I am back. I have figured out what books are going to correspond to what prompts on the bingo board. What I'm going to say is that I'm going to commit to the books, we'll see, for the Australian Readathon bingo board, and also to the books that I need to read as part of my various obligations. Let's go through the bingo board first. Alright, so the bingo board will be on the screen. I am doubling up, so I'm using some of the books all of the books that I'm using for this are the ones that I picked on the TBR, but yeah, we're going to double up. So we've only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for that, and then those 3 others that are priority reads. So let's go through the bingo board. We're starting over in the left top. Animal on the cover is our first prompt, and for this I'm going to read the Bookbinder of Jericho, because if you can see the cover, I'll put it in the middle of the screen so you can see, there are little butterflies on the book. The butterflies might actually be made of paper, but I'm still going to count it. They're butterflies, they still count as animals. This is a historical feminist story about bookbinding. That's about as much as I know. Then for the next prompt, LGBTQIA+, I'm going to read When Things Happen Together, which is our group book and is also queer. And this will actually also work as for set in Australia, which is on the bingo board as well. So I'm doubling up there because there's a road trip around Australia. Next prompt, we have your favourite genre. And for this one, I'm going to go with Deep is the Fen. So this one is a fantasy. That's my favourite genre, or my most read genre anyway. It will also work for host favourite because it is one of Steph's favourites that she said for the host favourite. So it works for that. All right, next up we have First Nations author. For this one, I'm going to read After Story by Larissa Barrett, and this will also work for red on the cover. And then finally, we have Coastal Setting, and I'm going to read The Deep by Kyle Perry for that one. I don't think I said before, this is a murder mystery set in Tasmania. So those are all the books that I'm going to be reading for the Australian Readathon for the bingo board. I also do have Empire of Gold that I need to read in July as well for the read-along of the Daevabad Trilogy. I also have The Pale Blue Eye, which I need to read for my In Real Life book club. And then I also have whatever book is the book for Bethany's book club, for her Patreon book club. But those are the 8 books that I am committing to reading. But yeah, that's the TBR. That's my TBR game. That's my TBR for the Australian Readathon. And all of those other things, all the things I hope to read in July. I'm pretty sure that's everything I need to talk to you about today. Like I said before, all of my hosts for the Australian Readathon, for the read-along of the Daevabad Trilogy, anyone else I mentioned like Bethany, are all linked down below, so you should go and check them all out. They're all wonderful people, fantastic content creators, etc. Go and subscribe. So that's all linked below. The announcement details, the announcement video with all the details for the Australian Readathon is linked below, and also my original explanation of the game is linked below if you wanted to catch up on how all that all works. But yeah, like I said, that's everything I want to talk to you about today. If you have any thoughts on any of the books that I selected, if you're planning on going in the Australian Readathon, what is your July TBR, let me know all of those things down in the comments below. If you'd like to leave me a comment but you don't know what, then leave me a dice emoji because I roll a dice for the game, and also I landed on character class a few times, which is the dice little picture of a dice. So yeah, leave me a dice if you have nothing to say but you want to just let me know you were here. All of my social media details are listed in the description below, so if you'd like to go and follow me on any of those other platforms, please feel free to do so. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, I would absolutely love it if you would subscribe to my channel and give this video a thumbs up. And yeah, like I said, thank you so much for joining me today. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time.